Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. It is May 16th, 2026, and we have a packed run today. OpenAI moving deeper into personal finance, XAI pushing harder into developer tools, fresh research on multi-agent safety, and Nvidia's Jensen Huang making headlines in Beijing. Let's get into what actually matters and why.
And the common thread here is that AI is moving from chat into workflows, money, coding, and geopolitics. That's where the real stakes are now, because these aren't just product demos anymore. They're starting to touch decisions people make every day.
First up, from QZ.com and Crypto Briefing, OpenAI has launched a personal finance preview inside ChatGPT, including bank account linking for some users. The reports say this is rolling out as a preview for US Pro users, which puts ChatGPT directly into the space where people track spending, budgets, and account activity.
That is a big shift. Once an AI can see financial data, it stops being just a helper that answers questions and becomes a system that can summarize your life. The upside is obvious: less manual budgeting, faster insights, maybe better financial awareness. But the trust bar is much higher when the data is this sensitive.
Exactly. The source brands here matter because QZ.com frames it as a consumer finance move, while Crypto Briefing emphasizes the pro-user preview angle. Either way, the key point is that OpenAI is testing a more practical, sticky use case. If people let ChatGPT connect to accounts, retention could rise fast.
And the competition angle is important too. Financial apps have spent years trying to become the place where people check everything first. If a general-purpose AI becomes that interface, it changes the power balance. But it also raises questions about permissions, data handling, and whether users really understand what they're connecting.
Speaking of pushing into developer workflows, MEXC and Indiatimes are both reporting that xAI has launched Grok Build, an AI coding agent for developers. The positioning is straightforward. xAI wants to compete in the crowded market for coding assistants and agentic dev tools, not just in general chat.
That makes sense strategically. Coding is one of the few AI categories where users can judge value quickly. If the agent saves time on scaffolding, debugging, or repetitive tasks, developers notice immediately. But it's also a brutal market because the bar is set by tools people already use every day.
Right, and the source mix suggests xAI is trying to get attention from both crypto-adjacent tech media and broader business audiences. The bigger story is that xAI is not waiting around to be seen as a side project. Grok Build signals a more direct play for enterprise and developer mindshare.
The timing matters too. Every major AI company is trying to own a workflow, and code is one of the most valuable ones because it sits close to revenue. If Grok Build is good, it can help xAI prove technical credibility beyond the usual social media buzz around Grok.
Now to safety research. arXiv published a paper titled Invisible Orchestrators Suppress Protective Behavior and Dissociate Power Holders, Safety Risks in Multi-Agent LLM Systems. The researchers looked at multi-agent setups where a hidden coordinator manages worker agents, and they found that the invisibility of that orchestrator created measurable safety concerns.
This is the kind of paper that sounds academic until you realize it maps directly onto how companies are deploying AI. A lot of enterprise systems are moving toward hidden coordination layers because they look efficient. But if the decision maker is invisible, it's harder to audit, harder to challenge, and easier for bad behavior to slip through.
The abstract says they ran a pre-registered experiment with 365 runs and compared visible leaders, invisible orchestrators, and flat structures. Even without getting lost in the methodology, the takeaway is pretty clear. Architecture affects behavior. It's not just about model quality anymore. It's about how the system is organized.
And that matters because companies often talk about agents like they're just software modules. This research is a reminder that social structure shows up in AI systems too. If a hidden orchestrator can suppress protective behavior, then governance has to include system design, not just content filters or policy docs.
Switching gears to Nvidia, Modern Ghana, News.cgtn.com, and the South China Morning Post all covered Jensen Huang's visit to Beijing, where he said, quote, "I love China." The phrase is making the rounds because it lands at a sensitive moment for Nvidia's business and for US-China tech relations.
That quote is simple, but the context is not. Nvidia sits at the center of the AI hardware stack, and China is a huge market with obvious strategic tension around chips. So when Huang speaks publicly in Beijing, it's not just a friendly remark. It's part business diplomacy, part signaling, and part survival strategy.
The reporting from CGTN and SCMP suggests the visit was broader than one soundbite, with attention on his summit tour and his public messaging. For Nvidia, the real issue is that AI demand is global, but access to the best hardware is increasingly shaped by politics, so every public appearance carries extra weight.
And that's why the clip traveled so fast. People aren't just watching what Huang says, they're reading it as a proxy for where the AI supply chain is heading. In this market, even a casual food tour moment can become a geopolitical signal.
On that food tour note, AP News and the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal reported that Huang tried Beijing's jjiangmian during the visit. Bloomberg also picked up a related clip of him eating noodles on a Beijing sidewalk. It sounds lighthearted, but it adds a human, almost theatrical layer to a very serious business trip.
These details matter because they soften the image of a CEO who is otherwise associated with one of the most strategically important companies on the planet. A bowl of noodles is not policy, obviously, but it helps shape the narrative. In tech, narrative can be as important as the product message.
And it also shows how media ecosystems work now. AP handles the basic factual moment, while Bloomberg turns it into a visual story, and the regional outlets amplify the cultural angle. That combination helps turn a routine visit into a globally shareable AI business moment.
Plus, it keeps Nvidia in the conversation at a time when everyone is watching compute, energy, and export rules, which brings us neatly to the next item because the energy side of AI is getting harder to ignore.
Benzinga reported on a comment tied to Huang warning that AI could soon need 1,000 times more energy, and then Elon Musk responded by saying space is the only way. That exchange is a good snapshot of where the industry debate is headed. Compute growth is colliding with power constraints.
That's a wild contrast, but it captures two different instincts. One is, how do we scale this on Earth? The other is, maybe we need a completely different infrastructure. Either way, energy is no longer a side issue. It's becoming one of the core bottlenecks for AI deployment.
And that's why this matters beyond the soundbite. If models keep getting bigger and widely used, the hardware story turns into an electricity story. That affects data centers, grids, and eventually the economics of every AI product we're talking about today.
Exactly. The companies that can solve power, cooling, and chip supply will have an edge that is just as important as model quality. So when Musk and Huang are talking about energy, they're really talking about the physical ceiling on the AI boom.
Next, from WION, there are reports that Elon Musk's SpaceXAI is seeing talent exits after a merger, with AI engineers leaving after the integration. The headline framing is stark, but the broader point is familiar. When big AI organizations merge, culture and retention can get messy fast.
That is often the hidden cost of consolidation. A merger can look efficient on paper, but if engineers feel the mission changed or the structure got heavier, they leave. In AI, losing a few key people can matter a lot because institutional knowledge is concentrated in small teams.
WION's reporting suggests the departures are being tied to the merger itself, which makes this more than a normal churn story. For a company trying to build in such a fast-moving field, stability matters. If the talent base starts to leak, execution gets harder right when the market is accelerating.
And it also feeds into the larger Musk narrative. He can attract attention and capital, but keeping specialized AI talent inside a merged org is a different challenge. People want clarity, speed, and a sense that the product roadmap is real.
Finally, a legal story from the Economic Times. Elon Musk and Sam Altman are facing renewed attention as the OpenAI trial nears its end. The report doesn't add dramatic new numbers, but it underscores how the legal fight around OpenAI is still hanging over the industry while product launches keep moving.
That's the tension in one sentence. The AI race is moving fast, but the courtroom clock is moving too. When a trial nears its end, the outcome can reshape how people talk about governance, founding disputes, and who gets to define the mission of these companies.
And that's the through line for today's episode. On one side, we have product expansion, finance tools, coding agents, and more ambitious workflows. On the other, we have safety, energy, talent, and legal pressure. The industry isn't just growing, it's absorbing friction at every layer.
Which is why these stories belong together. It's easy to get distracted by launches, but the real picture is a sector maturing under stress. The winners won't just be the ones with the flashiest demos. They'll be the ones that can earn trust, keep talent, and survive the constraints.
That's our signal for today. We covered OpenAI's finance preview from QZ.com and Crypto Briefing, xAI's Grok Build from MEXC and Indiatimes, the arXiv safety paper on invisible orchestrators, and the Nvidia Jensen Huang coverage from Modern Ghana, CGTN, SCMP, AP, Bloomberg, and Benzinga. A lot happened in 24 hours, and a lot of it points in the same direction. AI is moving closer to money, code, and power.
And we'll keep watching the gap between what these systems can do and what the world can safely absorb. That's where the real story lives. Thanks for listening to Midnight Signal AI.
Stay sharp. The future doesn't wait.